Big U had Nipsey Hussle killed. Everybody know that.
I thought Big U gave wrong information. 30 minutes later, the homies blowing me up like they just killed Nipsey.
Man, we just had some super sad news coming out of Los Angeles. It was just reported yesterday that Big U's son, Baby Huey, unfortunately lost his life in the streets of Los Angeles on the night of Halloween.
Nipsey Hussle's people are going wild right now after what just went down with Big U's son. And some of them are finally speaking up, claiming Big U had a hand in what happened to Nipsey. And word is, Nipsey's closest circle just had a heated run-in with Big U himself while he's locked up. Let's break this down, because what's happening right now is shaking the whole city to its core. The pain that once tore through LA never really faded. And the streets, they never forget, and they definitely don't forgive. On Halloween night of 2025, the entire hip-hop community felt something explode out of South Central. Something dark, something that dragged the past right back into the light. This wasn't just another tragedy making headlines, it was a moment that ripped open old scars and reignited.
My nephew, TD, I was looking for artists. TD told me to go get Nip. I went and seek Nip out of all the people I already been interviewing and talking to. And he was the shining light. He was the diamond in a pile of whatever.
One of the most explosive and emotional rivalries in Los Angeles street history. We're talking about Jabari Baby Wee Henley, 34 years old, the son of the infamous Eugene Big U Henley, a name that echoes across both the block and the boardroom. But here's the twist. This whole situation ain't just about one tragic night. Nah, it's about payback. It's about energy coming full circle and how the weight of a father's actions can fall straight onto the next generation. Because what followed after Jabari's passing, the footage that leaked, the tension inside those walls.
And I'm on a phone, he FaceTimed me. So he FaceTimed me and stuff like that. He was like, Nipsey just got killed. I'm like, sick, so I didn't hear that. So I hang up with him. I called Nipsey and I'm like, Nipsey, what's up? He was like, oh, what's up with it?
Nipsey answered.
Nipsey answered. But after I talked to Nipsey and I was like, yeah, I love you, cuz, or whatever like that. I'll see you later or whatever. So I hung up the phone. I thought Big U gave wrong information. 30 minutes later, the homies blowing me up like they just killed Nipsey.
And how Nipsey's crew reacted, it all turned this from tragedy into pure street history. Everything that happened tells a much deeper, darker story. One about betrayal, legacy, and how the streets always come back to collect their dues. On the night of October 31st, 2025, right around 11:11 p.m., Jabari Henley was spotted outside the Fig and 69 Smoke Shop, right there at the corner of South Figueroa and West 69th Street in South Central Los Angeles.
Big U had Nipsey Hussle killed. Everybody know that. Everybody know Big U, Nip called that hit. They was really jealous of Nipsey Hussle, homie. All the big homies in the set was jealous of Nip, because all the young love Nip. So Nip had got bigger than the set, cuz. Ain't nobody bigger than the set.
Now, anyone who truly knows LA understands the weight that location carries. That area is tied tight to the rolling 60s neighborhood Crips, the same crew that Big U was said to have led for years. This wasn't some random block or coincidence. This was deep in the territory that built his reputation, the same ground where his name still holds heavy meaning. This was supposed to be home turf, a place where his family should have been untouchable. But that night, none of that mattered. Eyewitnesses and early reports say Jabari walked up to a dark-colored sedan, maybe a Toyota Camry, maybe a Honda Accord, when out of nowhere, chaos broke loose. Shots rang out fast, one after another, echoing through the streets. Investigators say it looked like a semi-automatic was used, unleashing a quick burst that caught Jabari in several places. His torso, his side, his arm, even his leg. It all happened so fast, so sudden, that nobody could react in time. The whole scene left people frozen. It wasn't just violence, it was a message. A reminder that in LA's street politics, loyalty and legacy can turn against you in the blink of an eye.
But also, something else that didn't make sense to me, the hit didn't make sense to me, because who takes this girl on a hit? And who goes, if you're going to go do a hit, if it is a hit, you're going to go do a hit, who goes to confront the guy? He already know, I'm finna do this dude. Who goes to confront the guy, leave, and then come back?
The argument is actually pretty logical if you break it down.
Jabari dropped right there on the sidewalk, the whole block erupting in panic as people screamed and ran in every direction. The chaos was unreal. Sirens blaring, phones recording, and neighbors shouting for help. LAPD officers and paramedics rushed to the scene, trying everything they could to bring him back. CPR, oxygen, even epinephrine, fighting against time itself. But despite their efforts, Jabari Henley didn't make it. the injuries were just too severe. Officials later confirmed it was due to massive internal bleeding and a torn artery, the kind of wounds that leave no room for miracles. Within moments, the suspect had vanished, gone before anyone could react. All that was left behind were a few shell casings, grainy camera footage, and a scene that would spark one of the most talked about investigations in Los Angeles hip-hop history. The 77th Street Division of LAPD immediately took over, treating it as a high-priority case and trying to piece together exactly what went down that night. Detectives moved fast, collecting evidence, pulling surveillance footage from at least a dozen nearby stores and homes, and locking down the area. Witnesses described what they saw, but details were all over the place. Confusion, fear, and street silence made it harder to find clear answers. The evidence was sent straight for forensic testing, with ballistics reports expected in early November 2025. But here's where things got even more interesting. Police briefly detained 2 individuals from Inglewood, though they didn't appear to have any direct link to the Rolling 60s. Both were eventually released with no charges. Then came the twist.
And believe me, like I say, this case was investigated by the highest level of the branch. That man got a letter from the president.
Well, I know for a fact if they could get you, they'd get you.
And they
if they thought for a second that you had something to do with it and they could prove it, you out of here.
Investigators found partial DNA on a car handle that matched someone affiliated with the Hoover Criminals, a rival crew that's had deep tension with the 60s for decades. That clue flipped the narrative completely. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a single act of violence. It started to look like the streets were settling scores that had been brewing for years. This detail changed everything, because it made it clear this wasn't just some random street incident. It pointed to something much deeper, tied to the long-standing turf wars and tension that have been simmering in South LA for generations. A $50,000 reward was quickly put on the table for any info that could lead to an arrest or conviction, but even with that kind of money out there, nobody's been locked up yet. The case is still wide open, with detectives chasing multiple leads and trying to figure out what really pushed this to happen. But here's where the story takes a heartbreaking turn. Jabari wasn't some hardened gang figure or a man living by the code of the streets. Born March 15, 1991 in Inglewood, he was different. He had seen what that life did to people and tried to stay clear of it. Sure, he dipped into music for a bit, dropping songs like Hood featuring Hoodrich Pablo Juan, pulling in about 150,000 streams on Spotify. But even in his lyrics, you could hear he wasn't promoting chaos. He was talking about survival, family, and staying grounded. People who knew Jabari say he was focused, level-headed, and determined to carve out something real for himself. He worked as a warehouse supervisor out in Compton, holding things down for his 10-year-old daughter and keeping his life clean despite the heavy name he carried. Those close to him described him as a solid dude, someone who understood the game but chose not to play it. He knew the dangers, he knew the politics, but he wanted peace, not power. That's what made his story hit so hard, because even when you walk away from the streets, sometimes the streets don't walk away from you. But being Big U's son meant that no matter how far Jabari tried to run from that life, it would always circle back to him. And on Halloween night 2025, it found him in the harshest way imaginable. Big U reportedly got the news about his son around 1:30 a.m. on November 1st, roughly 2.5 hours after the chaos went down. But here's the twist. Big U wasn't on the outside when it happened. He wasn't walking free or moving through his old territory. Nah, he was behind bars at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, where he's been sitting since March 2025, held with no bail on a long list of serious federal RICO charges. Those charges, everything from extortion to fraud to robbery, even accusations of organizing illegal operations across state lines. And according to the indictment, one of the most shocking claims tied him to a murder-for-hire plot from back in 2021 involving an aspiring rapper out in Las Vegas. The whole case painted a picture of a man whose influence stretched from the streets to the industry, and it finally caught up to him. Now, according to insiders, Big U found out what happened to Jabari through a contraband phone call, coming straight from his co-defendant, Loose Cannon, who's also locked up. That call changed everything in an instant. Sources close to the situation say Big U's reaction was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The same man who built his entire image on strength, intimidation, and control, the man who had ruled neighborhoods with an iron fist, broke down completely. They say he went silent for a few seconds, then his voice cracked as he whispered, "Not my boy, not like this." It was the sound of a father watching his entire legacy collapse from behind prison walls, and the whole block felt that pain echo through the city. It was one of those rare moments that stripped away the legend and showed the man underneath, a glimpse of raw emotion that reminded everyone, even the toughest figures can break when it hits home. Behind all the headlines, the gang connections, and the federal charges, there was still a father. One who had just lost his firstborn in the most painful way imaginable. And the timing couldn't have been worse for Big U. His money was locked up due to the feds freezing his assets. His case was growing heavier by the week, and now the son who had spent years trying to avoid the same street life that made his father famous was gone. Plans were made for a memorial service on November 8th, 2025, but with Big U still sitting in federal custody, no one even knew if he'd be allowed to attend. It added another brutal twist to an already tragic story. But what happened next turned heartbreak into full-blown controversy. Instead of the city uniting in sympathy, parts of the hip-hop community exploded in chaos online. Nipsey Hussle's affiliates and a huge wave of his fan base hit social media not with condolences, but with celebration. Some treated Jabari's passing like karma finally coming full circle. Within 90 minutes of police scanners reporting the incident, the internet lit up like wildfire. By sunrise, hashtags like #Nipsey Karma and #Justice Cost Big Henley were trending everywhere. Thousands of posts flooded timelines, some calling it cosmic balance, others openly saying this was the streets settling the score. The tone was dark, cold, and unapologetic. Many users were either accusing Big U of having a hand in what happened to Nipsey or calling this the universe's payback. It became more than just a reaction. It turned into a digital riot, with people arguing whether this was tragedy or poetic justice. The reactions online were wild and honestly, brutal. Some people kept it calm, just pointing out the painful irony of Big U losing his son in almost the same way Nipsey lost his life. But others, they went all in, posting laughing emojis, cracking jokes about karma catching up, and even celebrating Jabari's passing like it was some kind of win for Team Nipsey. And this wasn't just random trolls chasing attention, not at all. These were real voices from inside the hip-hop community, people who genuinely believed that Big U had a hand in what happened to Nipsey. To them, this wasn't tragedy, it was the universe balancing the scales. They saw it as the streets serving payback, and that's what made this whole thing explode across every timeline. See, Big U's name has been tangled in whispers and conspiracy talk ever since March 31st, 2019, the day Nipsey Hussle was taken outside his Marathon clothing store in Crenshaw. Even though Eric Holder Jr. was convicted and sentenced for that crime, the internet never let go of its suspicions. The court might have closed the case, but the court of public opinion, it had its own verdict a long time ago. And that's exactly why this hit so differently. The internet didn't just talk, it mocked, it memed, it turned grief into gossip. This wasn't about another loss in South Central. This was about the past clawing its way back to the surface. It felt like the ghost of Nipsey Hussle was walking back into the conversation, reigniting wounds the city never healed from. Because when you dig deeper into why Jabari Henley's passing sparked such a fiery reaction, why Nipsey's affiliates and fans flooded feeds with talk of karma and balance, you realize it wasn't just about one man's tragedy. It was about years of pain, rumors, and resentment finally boiling over. And that viral confrontation footage everyone's talking about, that's where it all comes full circle. To really understand how we got here, we have to rewind the clock back to one of the most tangled and emotional relationships in modern hip-hop history. The bond between Big U and Nipsey Hussle wasn't just business, it was layered with loyalty, power, and eventually deep betrayal. Their story started around 2006 or 2007 when Nipsey was just a hungry young rapper trying to break through the brutal LA music scene. Back then, he was all grind, passing out mixtapes, spitting bars on corners, and trying to rise above the chaos that surrounded South Central. On the other side was Eugene Big U Henley, already a known figure, a certified OG in the rolling 60s neighborhood Crips, but also someone trying to reinvent himself as a legit businessman. He saw something special in Nipsey, the drive, the charisma, the potential to be more than just another street rapper. So Big U took him in, gave him access to studios, put a roof over his head, and schooled him on how to make money and survive in a city where both fame and enemies come fast. By 2009, things got official. Big U signed Nipsey to a 10-year management contract under his label UN Unique Music. That deal gave Big U major control over Nipsey's business moves and earnings. In interviews, Big U said the contract gave his company between 10 and 25% of Nipsey's publishing and management rights, a massive stake for an artist still finding his footing. At first, it looked like a win-win setup. Big U provided the connections, the muscle, and the insider game plan, while Nipsey got the platform, resources, and credibility to grow his brand. In those early years, Big U often described Nipsey as a son in spirit, someone he truly believed could represent the next generation of Crenshaw's greatness. He helped Nipsey move smart, avoid unnecessary street drama, and navigate the complex gang politics that could have easily ended his career before it began. But what started as mentorship soon turned into one of hip-hop's most controversial partnerships, one that would eventually split the city in two. In a city like Los Angeles, where street borders could literally decide your fate, Big U's backing meant everything. His reputation as an OG gave Nipsey something priceless: freedom. It allowed him to move safely through neighborhoods that would have been off limits to most artists. He could perform anywhere, connect with anyone, and grow his name without constantly watching his back. But as Nipsey's star began to rise, so did the tension. He wasn't just another local artist anymore. He was becoming a symbol, an independent powerhouse building his own empire brick by brick. His Marathon clothing brand was taking off, his business mindset was sharper than ever, and he was learning how to play the industry game on his own terms. By 2018, as that 10-year management contract was coming to an end, Nipsey had outgrown the old setup. He wanted full control, full ownership of his art, his brand, and his money. The young artist who once needed protection and mentorship had become his own boss, and that shift didn't sit right with everyone around him. What once felt like guidance started to feel like a leash. The same deal that opened doors for Nipsey now felt like it was keeping him locked in place. The mentor-protege bond that once fueled his rise had turned cold, tense, and filled with unspoken resentment. And this is where things get messy, because according to newly surfaced federal wiretaps and court filings from Big U's ongoing RICO case in 2025, investigators suggested that Big U's role in Nipsey's career might have gone far beyond just management. These documents hinted at a pattern of control and influence that blurred the line between business and power, raising the question of whether Nipsey was ever truly free from the streets he tried to rise above. According to federal reports and street insiders, Big U wasn't just managing artists. He was allegedly running a massive extortion ring that stretched across Los Angeles. Businesses, entertainers, and even people under his own wing were said to be paying for protection, that same safety net he promised. It apparently came with a heavy price tag, and anyone who refused to play along risked facing pressure, threats, or getting shut out completely. One of the loudest voices pushing this claim was Charleston White, a name that always sparks controversy. He's gone on record several times saying that Big U tried to shake down Nipsey Hussle, demanding money for continued protection as Nipsey's fame and business empire grew. Now, Charleston White isn't exactly known for being subtle or trustworthy. He's made a career out of stirring the pot, but the wild part is that others in the LA scene have echoed similar things. Multiple industry figures have hinted that there might have been real tension brewing behind the scenes between Big U and Nipsey once the money started rolling in. The idea was simple, but deadly serious. The higher Nipsey climbed, the more it disrupted the old power balance. Big U's camp allegedly saw his success as a threat to the hierarchy that had been in place for decades. In street politics, there's an unspoken rule. Nobody gets bigger than the set, bigger than the name, or bigger than the gang that raised them. And when Nipsey started breaking those boundaries, building a legacy that reached beyond South Central, the whispers got louder. Some say that's when admiration turned to jealousy, and mentorship started feeling more like control. In the world Big U came from, there's one rule that's never supposed to be broken. No one individual is bigger than the organization. You can have success, you can shine, but you never outshine the set. According to this theory, that's exactly what Nipsey Hussle did. He crossed an invisible line. By 2018, Nipsey had become larger than life, more respected, more admired, and more influential than even the Rollin' 60s name itself. And for some in that circle, that was a major issue. The power dynamic shifted, and the old guard wasn't ready for that kind of change. That's when everything fell apart. Their relationship, once built on loyalty and brotherhood, completely shattered in late 2018 after things boiled over in a Crenshaw parking lot. It all started when Nipsey dropped a diss track that reportedly took direct aim at Big U, calling him a scrapper, not a rapper, and questioning whether his street influence still held any real weight in the industry. It wasn't just a song, it was a statement. For a man like Big U, whose image and authority were everything, those lyrics cut deep. They weren't just bars, they were viewed as public disrespect. And in that world, that kind of challenge doesn't go unanswered. According to multiple reports, Big U pulled up to confront Nipsey and his brother, Samuel Black Sam Asghedom, over the track and over deeper gang-related tensions that had been bubbling under the surface. What started as words turned physical, fast. Witnesses say Big U got aggressive, putting hands on both brothers in front of everyone. Things escalated to the point where, according to those same accounts, Black Sam pulled out a weapon and fired a warning shot in self-defense. When things got too heated, LAPD rolled up minutes later, taking Sam into custody even though no one was hurt in the chaos. That moment changed everything. It wasn't just a fight, it was the breaking point. The bridge between mentor and protege burned right there on Crenshaw. That parking lot clash marked the end of everything between Big U and Nipsey. Their bond, once built on trust and respect, completely collapsed that day. This wasn't just a fight about music or money. It ran way deeper. At its heart, it was about power, pride, and what Big U saw as outright disrespect. As an OG in the rolling 60s, Big U had always expected loyalty from those he helped rise, and Nipsey, in his eyes, had crossed the line. When Nipsey refused to re-sign under Big U's label after the contract expired and then dropped that diss track, it wasn't seen as business, it was seen as betrayal. To Big U, that was the ultimate sign of disobedience from someone he once treated like family. Even though things turned ugly, reports say they eventually called a truce, at least publicly. Big U later did interviews saying there was no bad blood, no beef, and that he still respected Nipsey as a man and as an artist. After Nipsey's passing, he was even more vocal, speaking highly of him, giving emotional interviews and calling him a legend. But behind the scenes, the story wasn't so clean. Federal wiretaps from 2023 reportedly caught Big U bragging about his status, saying he was bigger than Nipsey and claiming he'd handle anyone who crossed him. In those same recordings, he allegedly described what happened in that parking lot as discipline, not a fight, painting it as gang business, not a personal issue. Then came the moment that froze the entire city. The day everything changed forever. The mentor became the suspect in whispers, and the student became a legend in death. On March 31st, 2019, the world stopped when Nipsey Hussle was taken outside his Marathon clothing store in South Los Angeles. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, but it was too late. The news hit like a thunderclap. Fans, friends, and the entire culture were left in shock. That day didn't just end a life. It created a legend and sparked one of the most haunting conspiracy storms hip-hop has ever seen. The man identified as the one who took Nipsey's life was Eric CZ Holder Jr., another member tied to the rolling 60s neighborhood Crips. He was eventually convicted in 2022 and handed a 60 years to life sentence. The official version of events painted it as a personal fallout. The story went that Holder confronted Nipsey over street rumors claiming he had cooperated with law enforcement. According to the prosecution, after that brief exchange, Holder allegedly walked back to his car, grabbed a weapon, returned, and opened fire, ending Nipsey's life right outside his own business. That was the story presented in court. The jury bought it, Holder was convicted, case closed, or so everyone thought, but almost immediately, whispers started spreading that the situation wasn't so simple. The streets, and a huge part of the online hip-hop community, didn't believe it was just a heated argument gone wrong. They claimed there was more beneath the surface, something bigger, darker, and more connected to the power games within LA's underground world. Then came one of the most explosive claims of all, from none other than Loose Cannon, a close associate of Big U and a man who would later end up indicted alongside him in the 2025 federal RICO case. In a viral interview, Loose Cannon dropped a bombshell. He claimed that about 30 minutes before Nipsey was pronounced gone, Big U called him saying, "Nipsey just got hit." But here's the twist. At that moment, Nipsey was still alive. If that timeline is true, and that's a big if, since Loose Cannon himself is facing heavy federal time and might have his own motives, it raises serious questions. How could Big U have known about the incident before it even officially happened? The claim shook everyone, fans, insiders, and even law enforcement. Because if there's even a shred of truth to it, it means Nipsey's tragedy might not have been just random street drama. It could have been something far more calculated. The implications behind those claims were downright chilling. The idea that Big U might have known what was coming or even played a hand in setting it up sent shockwaves through the hip-hop world. And when you line up the timing, the unresolved tension between him and Nipsey, the long history of control and intimidation, and the federal accusations against him for running a violent criminal enterprise, the theory started to sound a lot less far-fetched to many. Controversial figure Charleston White wasted no time throwing gasoline on the fire. He came out swinging, publicly accusing Big U of ordering the hit on Nipsey Hussle. According to him, it was all about jealousy and power. The old guard in the rolling 60s couldn't handle seeing Nipsey become bigger than the gang itself. Charleston framed it as payback, claiming that Nipsey's fame had made him a target in the eyes of people who once protected him. And it wasn't just him speaking out. Former death row rapper Hussle, also known as SKG Choice, stepped forward with her own accusations, saying Big U had a long record of intimidation and violence, and she believed he was capable of organizing something this serious. She even claimed she'd seen him physically confront people right in front of Nipsey, using fear to keep his influence intact. These weren't just outsiders or random conspiracy theorists. These were people who had seen Big U's tactics up close and personal. Their stories lined up with a larger pattern, one that made many believe Nipsey's downfall wasn't random at all, but part of something carefully planned. Still, Big U has consistently and forcefully denied all allegations connecting him to Nipsey's tragedy. He's spoken out in interviews, calling the rumors disrespectful and straight lies. He even sent out cease and desist letters to outlets like No Jumper, warning them to stop spreading false claims about his name. But even with those denials, the whispers never stopped. And for a lot of people, silence from certain corners only made the suspicions grow louder. After being flooded with accusations linking him to Nipsey's passing, Big U finally spoke out in one of his most detailed interviews yet. And his argument actually sounded calculated and logical when you break it down. He laid out his version of events, pointing out that Eric Holder's actions that day didn't line up with how a professional hit is normally carried out. Big U explained that Holder brought his girlfriend along to the scene, openly talked to Nipsey before anything happened, then casually walked off to a nearby Master Burger to grab food, and only after that did he return and commit the act. Big U said straight up, that's not how a setup works. And he's not wrong about how unusual that behavior looks. A real organized hit is fast, silent, and leaves no trail. Not a mix of small talk and snack breaks between confrontations. His point was clear. Holder's behavior seemed impulsive, emotional, and sloppy. Not something coordinated by any criminal mastermind. On top of that, Big U reminded people that the FBI had already run a massive, years-long investigation into Nipsey's case as part of their larger crackdown on Los Angeles gang activity. When federal prosecutors dropped that 43-count RICO indictment against Big U in 2025, they threw in everything they could. Extortion, racketeering, fraud, robbery, human trafficking, even a separate murder charge tied to the 2021 killing of aspiring rapper Ray Sean Williams. But one thing was missing from that long list: any connection between Big U and Nipsey Hussle's murder. And for him, that omission spoke volumes. He argued that if the feds had any real evidence linking him to Nipsey's case, it would have been front and center in that indictment. The fact that it wasn't, he said, proves that the streets might be full of rumors, but the paperwork tells a different story. In Big U's eyes, the conspiracy theories might make for viral content, but they don't hold up under real investigation. Still, even with the logic and the legal backing, the whispers haven't stopped, because in Los Angeles, once your name gets tied to something this heavy, it never truly fades away. Whether there's any truth to the rumors or not, the conspiracy theories linking Big U to Nipsey Hussle's death have wrecked his life and reputation. The fallout has been massive. He's reportedly lost major deals, watched sponsorships disappear, and even saw a rumored $3 million Adidas partnership that was supposedly being arranged through Kanye West completely fall apart. People who once worked with him have quietly backed away, not wanting to risk being tied to someone with such dark accusations hovering over their name, even with no proof. In the music industry, once the streets start talking, silence can destroy a career faster than any verdict. Right after Nipsey's passing, Big U tried to step up publicly, organizing unity marches, giving emotional speeches, and even helping raise funds for Nipsey's family. For a short while, it looked like he was trying to mend the city's broken spirit. But as the theories kept spreading online, everything shifted. His image got dragged through the mud, his name became a magnet for hate, and his credibility within hip-hop circles started to crumble. The court of public opinion had already decided his fate long before any courtroom did. And in this culture, perception often is the reality, especially when your past is as heavy as Big U's. And that brings us full circle, back to Halloween night 2025, the night his son Jabari lost his life under eerily similar circumstances to how Nipsey was taken 6 years earlier. Both men tied to the same neighborhood, both connected to the Rolling 60s legacy, and both taken in South Los Angeles in ways that left the city questioning whether fate or something else was at play. It's a chilling reflection of how the streets never forget, and how every action, every rumor, and every legacy eventually comes home to roost. If you're still here, do one quick thing before you go. Smash that like button, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to share this video so more people can see the full story. Click the next box on your screen, because trust me, the next chapter is about to get even crazier.